Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiberflux. In this video, I will show you how to weave in the ends of your work. Usually when you work on a project, you have a tail when you've started or completed your work. And this is a really good skill to know because obviously you don't want this little tail hanging out of your work. So to weave in the ends of your work, you'll need a pair of scissors, and you'll also need some tapestry or yarn needles, depending on what you call them. I've grabbed a few here. These two here are plastic, and it's really a personal preference. This one is very flexible, if you'd like a little bit of flex when you're using a needle. And then these two are blunt-tipped metal needles. And this one has a smaller eye and is a little bit smaller to handle thinner yarn. And this one is larger, longer, thicker, has a larger eye to handle a thicker yarn. We're going to use this one today because this is some cotton yarn that we have here. So what you want to do to thread in your ends is to first locate the front and the back of your work. This is the front of our little swatch here. And then this is the back of our work. So we're going to be working on the back side of the work. So what you'll want to do is take your yarn tail, and if the plies are coming apart, which happens often when you're working and the tail is dangling while you're knitting or crocheting, these plies can kind of come untwisted. So what you want to do is you can either give the yarn a fresh cut to kind of clean things up a little bit if it's really unraveled, or if it's just a little bit, you can just give it a little twist. And then what you'll want to do is thread your tapestry needle or yarn needle. People call them different things. They're both the same thing. And then you want to thread it so that it has a small tail, just like that. So our tail comes out in the corner of our work. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your needle and you're going to come in through these first loops. And I like to come in about an inch or two. So that's going to put us about right here. So you're going to take your tapestry needle and you're going to come in this first loop here, and then you're going to just send the needle. Now your work, depending on the stitches you've done, you can have lots of little loops, but you just want to kind of run them in uniformly across the back. And we're taking care not to send it to the front. Just keep everything in the back so that the front will still look the same. And you want to take your time doing this as much as possible because you want your finish work, after you've spent all this time working on your project, you want your finish work to be nice and neat. That's really important. So we've come in about an inch or two into our work. So we can just pull everything through, just like that. And see how when I pulled it drew it up a little? That's okay, you want to do that. So this was our last little loop that we pulled our yarn through. So you don't want to send it back through this loop because it's going to pull out what you've just done. So you want to kind of go over top of this loop and then come back in the opposite direction. This will lock everything into place and will make sure it gives you kind of an added protection against the ends popping out. So we're going to come in the opposite direction, and again we went over top of that last loop. That's really important so you don't pull this back out. And we're just going to pull it right through, and again I pulled mine a little bit snug so that see how it kind of drew it up. That's going to be important in just a second. So at this point we can take our needle off and we have just our end. So just give it a little tug, and then you can take your scissors and just trim that right off. And then you can, I like to save all of my yarn tails. This is just a side note, and you can use them to stuff toys. You can use them for the birds to build their nests, but you want to save all of your yarn ends if you have the space to store things. And now that our tail is woven in, we still have a little bit of a drawing up. So because we did that, you want to give it a little tug just to straighten everything out, and those ends will just disappear. So we can flip our work over. You can see everything looks beautiful. It's woven in. Everything looks nice and neat and clean. So that is how you weave in the ends of your work. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the red subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again!